Okay, good morning to everybody. This is the first keynotes of the day. We have in front of us a wonderful English and French designer, Maud de Rohan Willner.
Mhm.
The pronunciation is
Hi.
right, Maud? Okay,
Yes,
perfect.
perfect.
Okay, perfect. Then I make short presentation just to have a figure of Maud that, let's say, she's a scientist. Then more or less she knows many different science and arguments and branch regarding the food design and so on. Then Maud is a French and British food designer based in London. I know why you prefer England to French, but it's okay.
No,
Blending
half and half.
okay, we'll discuss later. Blending her deep curiosity in food anthropology, sustainability, and innovative design. To the people, take care of the different specialities of mode because very, very important and completely interconnected one to the other. Okay, with experience as a chef, and this is quite interesting. Even designer and brand consultant, she explored the intersection of food, culture, and community through her extensive travels. Okay, you are a traveler like me. Okay, okay, perfect. I know. I'm so curious regarding the multicultural and so on. Then it's
Mm.
like I'm like a dog with the smell all the all the angles around
So,
the world. That's I can
so
imagine
much
that.
to
Well,
discover still.
okay. Maud's commitment to sustainability and the future of food shapes her boundary pushing approach to design, crafting sensory dining experience, and advising forward thinking brands in upcoming trends. And I can imagine that the trend is one of the most arguments of the future. I don't know, in delay time, your trend are from today to 2030, 2035, or late future?
And no, I think it's just interesting to see what might happen in just in this year, what we're predicting as well in the past to now, and then also what in the next 5, 10, 30 years as well, I think.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Then the last sentence, she also teaches food design at university, like me, and hosts the Edible Words podcast and underline the Edible Word podcast because it's very interesting, delving into food trends around the world. Maud, thank you so much to be here in digital. Okay, that's tomorrow. I will be live in my 100 kilos in Madrid. That's okay. Uh, this is your time for the people. Okay.
Super, thank you. Okay. So, got this presentation. I'll try and go through it fairly quickly because I know we don't have too much time. And I can talk for for ages. For those who know me, but yes, I'm Maud, and I'm based in London at the moment. I actually, fun fact, live on a narrow boat, so I'm currently on my boat, on the canal in London. And yeah, there's a QR code here for the podcast. So I've did quite a few different things over the last few years. I started Salty Studio about 5, 6 years ago now. And went through a whole different journey with this after doing a master's in food design and my degree in sustainable product design as well. So sort of all interlinked together. And then I've now been actually working full time for as a brand marketing manager for a Italian pasta brand in the UK. So doing slightly different things, but I am still connected with my Salty Studio work, and that has sort of I was involved in lots of different projects working on this. So doing events for the public, for brands, and so on. So this is a bit of a background about me. Here's some colorful pictures of the food I was doing. So again, a lot of chefing as well. So I'm a bit of a self-taught chef, so I haven't actually done the full chef studies, but I feel like a lot of my experiences taught me so
Maud,
much. So
sorry, can I interrupt you if I have
of course,
any question and so on?
yes,
Okay,
of
thank you
course.
so much.
Of course. So I thought I'd sort of pick a very random topic, random but actually still quite important these days, that I wanted to sort of delve into a little bit more and explore. And I kind of picked the future of airline food because I find it actually really fascinating. I don't know about you, but how often do you fly per year, Giorgio?
We took a lot of airplane. Then okay, the
Yeah.
food is one of the most problem when you fly.
No, exactly. And I feel like, yeah, so as we're going to see now, like we fly a lot more often. I think even though there's now a slight difference these days of being more responsible as well, and sort of seeing if we can take alternative travel means, for example, trains or driving instead. But I think obviously the flying is still so relevant these days. So I just thought it'd be interesting to look back at the past. So here are some interesting pictures from when flying just only started. So
Yeah.
this is in the 1920s and 1930s. So back then it was very different. The food that you had on board was very different. It was more of a luxury to fly. So you had these really amazing, intricate menus that were designed. A lot of them written actually in French, funny enough.
So the Orient Express.
Exactly, that's on the plane, and that's actually they weren't even planes at that time. They were called the flying boats.
Yeah.
So still, they could actually some of them could actually land on water as well. So, and kitchens started to appear on these. So I'll go fairly quickly through because it's quite a lot of different stages, of course. And so the 1940s and 60s, again, it was still quite a luxury to fly. So the food was quite elaborate. And actually frozen food on board started happening, and then the airline crew would sort of walk down with fresh salads and charcuterie, and they would sort of cut it in the middle of the aisle for customers to see. So it was really a full experience of flying, and traveling. So, and then slowly in the 70s, this is where things started to sort of change a bit as well, and there was still there was actually sort of a policy now that well, some companies started to change their policies a little bit to make the cost of a ticket a bit cheaper. So, for example, I think it was Southwest Airlines who lowered the airfares by eliminating meals completely and serving only peanuts to sell more tickets. But actually, in the past, there used to be a regulation where they had to serve until the 80s. They had to serve a starter, main course, and a dessert. It was quite regulated what the whole meal you had that came with your flight ticket. So,
Sorry, Maud.
mhm.
This is the reason cause was a massive product or the other differentiation.
In what sense?
Okay, the non-luxury lunch.
Yeah.
Okay, it's determined to the grow of the quantities
Yeah.
of flyer
So I think slowly.
and okay.
Yeah, exactly. So slowly, again, I think it's due to time as well. So, for example, in the 70s, again, you could have a meal in first class that actually took 2 hours apparently to serve and then clear, whereas actually a meal in the economy section, actually they would manage to serve the whole entire cabin in 30 minutes. So I think they slowly started to have this difference in classes as well, whereas before it used to be all the same. And then, yeah, I think just in terms of the volume then that starts. So again, this is into the in the next slide. So in the 80s and 90s, actually, this is an interesting one that there was an airline that managed to remove if they removed one olive from each salad, and that saved them something like $40 million a year. So it sort of started to streamline so much, and I think this is just sort of where it started to evolve. Obviously, the number of people that were flying now, and now this is the examples. I don't know if some of you have seen some videos, some documentaries on the airline food and how it's produced, but a lot of it is produced sort of up to 12 hours before in a big factory, and then just do it in a huge volume.
For this photo, I have a friend that in their working life was a chef of Linate Airport.
Oh yeah,
Here near my home is 2
I know.
kilometers.
I've flown there a few
And
times.
he said every flying company has a different menu.
Yeah.
Why?
I think because again they have different structures. They work with different companies. They have different different. They try to cater to their different customers as well. So, and I think they all have different partnerships with different chefs and
Okay,
brands they
lot
work
of
with.
reasons. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so looking at some current trends in the airline industry at the moment. So some of the things that I found were quite interesting. So for example, this article about that the demand for vegan meals on board, for example, Emirates Airline, has risen by 40% in 2023. So I thought that's actually really interesting because a lot of this is more for long haul flights. But I've heard that a lot of people end up picking the vegan meals or the vegetarian ones because they taste better, they're more developed than the non-vegetarian and vegan meals. And even though there's the trend has sort of been stabilizing now in the general food industry, it's still interesting that was one of the most picked meals on board. So I think again, it's sort of making us question how what is the situation at the moment with airline food? Is it really that? Can we improve on the taste? I think in particular with around vegetables and other ingredients in those.
I anticipate a little bit the argument of the next super panel, but
Mm.
the communication in this case is to emphasize the role and the quality of the company or the quality of food and beverage served, in your opinion?
Yeah. No, I think that's the different companies have different focuses, I guess, as well. Because I think some companies are it depends the volume as well that they're doing, how big the company is, and how many flights they do. If it's, for example, one of the low cost companies or other ones. So I think that's where it's interesting is there's such a variety now in terms of the types of companies, what they propose, and the different levels as well. Yeah, so I think in terms of the different classes, the business and premium are very much getting very extreme. I feel like we're sort of spreading out to extremes now. There's the really premium experiences you can get, but they're very, very expensive. And then you go all the way down to the 10 euro flights sometimes. Well, not so much anymore now, but as they used to be with Ryanair and EasyJet and those very low cost companies, at least in Europe. But where you literally had to, everything is an add-on. You have to, you pay for a bigger seat, you pay for a carry-on now, you pay for everything extra. And they're really trying to lower the costs, well, make it seem more attractive, but then you end up paying more and more every time. So,
Okay.
but yeah, and so I think there's a difference again between the long haul flights and short haul flights as well. So, in my experience, I've got a bit more in more short haul flights, and I've done a couple of the long ones as well. But there is a difference between those two. The short haul flights, you don't generally eat much on board. There's some snacks, there's some quick meals, but often people buy. There's more a focus on buying food in advance at the in the gates. So now, at least in the UK, they're developing more and more the food offerings and the food choices, like restaurants and grab and go in the airports. Actually, the company I'm working with are opening a pasta. It's called Pasta Evangelist. They're opening a pasta restaurant, a grab and go in Manchester Airport, which is very exciting. So again, I think there's sort of there's a lot of focus on that pre-flight, so snacks rather than meals. Whereas on the longer haul flights, that's where the meal experience is a bit different, because you're obviously on the flight for longer, and you want to actually have the full meal. Although again, it can be a bit destabilizing. So again, that's why I wanted to talk about the emotional connections when flying, because you sort of feel a little bit again with the time difference, the jet lag, the traveling. It can get quite quickly overwhelming, and you have a lot of stress and anxiety when you're traveling. Even though there is obviously some potential anticipation and excitement before you're flying to see friends and that you maybe or family you haven't seen in a while, or discovering a new country, or you're on your way back and you have some nostalgia and bittersweet feeling of returning home. So and again, also traveling, if you're traveling on your own or with young children, I think it's interesting to try and understand the type of flyer as well, and what they might be feeling when they're traveling. So how we can maybe work around that. And so why should airlines actually improve the food experience? Well, food is sort of such an important element of our day. It's sort of what is a rhythm in our day. So we start with breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It sort of gives a bit of structure during the day. So just as on a human level, it's necessary. It also obviously works with your helps with your mood and your emotions. But then on the brand side as well, it can increase sort of brand and airline loyalty. So you might want to book with them again and again. So it encourages customers to stay loyal to the brand. It makes for a memorable journey experience as well. So anything, and that's sort of something I like to focus on. And if you can improve the different senses within an experience, then it becomes more memorable. And food is such an easy way for this. And I can still hear from my boss the other day came back from a long haul flight from the I think it was from Chile to back to the UK, and he just with British Airways, and he said the food really wasn't as good at all as he would have thought. So, and I just keep reading this, and yeah, I think there's a lot of improvement still to do, but again, it's with volume, so it is a more of a questioning at this stage that I'm interested in, but and then. Mm-hmm.
And there is a connection, because I read improve marketing
Mm-hmm.
organically through social media and content. There is a connection between food and social media and context airline presentation.
Yeah, of course. So I mean, this has been going on since the start of social media. I find, I mean, even more nowadays with food, but you have all these trends that are picking up so quickly on TikTok or on Instagram. Oh, sorry. And I think food is so important, and it's such an easy thing to take pictures of and to share your experience again with your friends and family. Oh, sorry.
Drink water.
Yeah. So I think it's an interesting way to, and there's a lot of these, for example, restaurants where they're creating these very unique dishes, and everyone wants to take pictures of them, go and experience them, and then they share them. In the UK and here, at least, a lot of the street food brands are really trying to see how they can make their dish look very Instagrammable, as we say. So I think it could be a different way as well, again, to utilize this organic marketing in some way. So make a customer happy by providing them some good food, but also have sort of organic marketing, and they'll take pictures and share it. Yeah. So I've come up with a few different funny concepts. I thought, just again, my idea is not to obviously provide complete solutions, but it's more just to get people to question things and see how can we improve things. What could potentially be done. So this I thought would be really interesting. So kids, funny enough, I don't feel like they are, obviously they're not the main customer, they're not the ones who are paying for their flight, but they're still very important sort of customers and consumers of these these flights. And I think it's especially for long haul flights, and I don't have kids yet, but I can imagine for parents it's quite a stressful experience sometimes to fly with young children, keep them entertained, and food is often quite an important part where the parents would either have to sort of buy snacks or things in advance. I don't think there's not that much choice for in airports. So I'd imagine parents would usually buy all this or prepare this at home before. And also depending on the way that you're educating your children and everything, if you want them to eat particularly healthy things or not. And I think all of this. So I think there's definitely some opportunity there as well, more on the side of food and play as well. So, for example, I always remember the Mariah Vogelsang's project on Veggie Bling Bling. So combining sort of vegetables and fun and jewelry and just sort of playing with it. And
because they want to cultivate the new flyer.
Exactly. Well, on that side, but I think it's more on the fun side. It's more on the entertainment side, keeping them entertained, but also sort of having the food element as well. So I really like this idea of having the edible flight tickets, for example. Maybe they can at the entrance of the flight, they can get a ticket, and then they can eat on it, and it's such a sort of a fun, magical experience for them to do. So yeah, and this could be an interesting theme to explore. And then another theme that I thought would be really interesting, again, I was talking about emotions earlier, and there's a more and more of these functional food brands, whether it's drinks or food or snack, mostly snacks and drinks, and all to help with your mood. So you've got a couple of these drinks. There's actually one above, which is the one on the left. I think that's recently been launched on one of the American airlines. But then you have other brands like Trip that have CBD in them, and they can help for either to focus if you need to sort of work, maybe do some work while you're on your flight or something, or if you need to calm down. And then you've got other drinks as well, with sort of these nootropics. So they're these medicinal mushrooms and other sort of nutrients that could help. Particularly, for example, in a flight, you need a lot of hydration because the air is really dry on the flight. So sort of all these little treats as well could be something interesting to serve on board. There's, for example, there was this ice cream that has some sleep-friendly ingredients, for example, like magnesium and B6 and tryptophan, and some sort of other ingredients that could help with sleep. So I think especially on long haul flights, I think that could be interesting, for example, for an airline to partner with some of these brands. Also, you've got Kin, for example, which are like a non-alcoholic drink. So again, with these adaptogens. So whether it's on the alcohol side, for example, if you want to have it celebrate your a travel or trip that you're doing with someone else, with a partner or a friend, but you might not want the effects of alcohol at the end of your flight, that could be an interesting option. I'm sure there's already some of that, but I think it's more around looking at finding these snacks and drinks that could potentially support the emotions that people might feel on board. And then also, I think there's especially with flights, you also have the I don't know about you, but when I'm flying, I'm often buying little snacks, and I'm feeling a bit guilty about being quite unhealthy. So I think there's that at the moment. I've seen this as a bit of a trend where everyone's sort of growing a need for indulgence, but actually without having the guilt, and sort of keeping with the moral values of being healthy and being careful about what you're eating. So there's two more themes here.
We have finished the presentation.
Yeah, two more themes. Yes. So just two more other themes that I thought would be interesting to explore. One is then I'll go through them quite quickly, but I actually just thought, how interesting would it be? So you have obviously the in-flight movies, so the films is quite a big part of flying. So what if and there are other companies like Edible Cinema who have done separately these experiences where you go and see a film in a cinema, and you have an eating experience inspired by the film, and different snacks and components of the meal during that. What if you could have that during a flight, for example? And it can be as elaborate and or as simple as well. You have maybe just 5 snacks and you have them during the film. I just thought that could be such a fun experience, and potentially also be part of the film. Could be from the country where you're flying to, or flying from, or from the airline or something. So but yeah, I just thought that would be really an interesting experience to have a multi-sensory experience in flight, sort of connecting the food side, the meal and food element with the film, and make it more of like a sort of a multi-sensory cinema experience. That was the other one. And the last one was partnering with local brands, chefs, and businesses. And I think more and more, I've just put a couple of examples there, but there are more and more airlines that are partnering with known chefs, but more on the more premium experience. Whereas I feel like how interesting would it be if for example, this British chef Tom Kerridge would partner with EasyJet, for example. He's known for his pub food. Then maybe he could curate a simple menu on EasyJet, and it's not just the cup of soup and the sandwiches and that, or maybe it's with the local the tourism board. So for example, Trentino in Italy, or partnering with local brands. For example, the Botanist gin. It's from Scotland. So maybe any flights going to Scotland actually could serve these drinks in particular. So yes, that was it. And the last one, sorry. So the last one again, of course. So sustainability is a big part
of the main argument. Yes,
exactly. So I think there's there's a lot that's already, I think as a society, we're a lot more aware now of the impacts of travel on the sustainable side. But actually also in terms of I think the products that are given out, there's, especially for example on long haul flights, you get given all these sort of free products and whatever, face masks and things like that, and you're going to use them once and then you throw them away quite quickly. And there's so much packaging. So I think as I always feel that there's definitely more improvement in terms of packaging. And for me, packaging and food, funny enough, can collide quite a lot, because, for example, there's Heckles and other brands that are exploring using mushrooms as packaging. You have Notpla here on the right. They use algae and seaweeds for these water capsules. So maybe that could be something that can be served on board. Lavazza did this a while ago with this.
Because in the flying market, the waste costs a lot.
Well, exactly. So if there's a way of reducing waste, I think we're aware of it. But when it's on such a big scale, it's I think we're still not we're definitely not there yet at all. So again, I think there's a huge difference between and in general with all of these themes between the long haul flights and short haul flights, but because it's a different experience and a different volume. But yeah, I think there's definitely room again for improvement on the zero waste travel side. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, perfect.
That was interesting.
Super nice presentation. And then I had a lot of questions, but so it's no time. I will switch on the next panel. And we are a little bit in delay, but it's not important because we have let's say a free time to save the agenda.
Sorry, I know I can talk for a long. I try to keep it short.
Thank you so much, Moda, and we will be in let's say 15 minutes on the next panel. Okay.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.